Welcome to the COMANDOLIN studio. Very important lesson today as we close out chapter 2, lesson 13 here, and is it the Alfred Beginning Mandolin book. Refine your strumming. This one's all about strumming patterns and rhythms. And whether or not you've been following along in the previous, 12 lessons about reading music in this chapter, if you're interested in reading music, the other lessons, you may or may not be interested in the nuts and bolts of dotted quarter notes and things of that nature if you're just going to do tabs. But the rhythms apply to everybody. And the strumming patterns and principles covered here, very important. When I see mandolin, I don't mean to be critical or anything, but when I see mandolin players a lot in groups or, people I've filled in for or things I've watched, mistakes they all make is rhythmical, backbone beat of the band type of stuff. So anyway, we're going to look at just a few of the rhythm patterns that we're going to play at the end of the thing here. A progression. Boil them cabbage down. They love songs about food back in the day, but probably, the most basic fundamental progression essential to so many, just hundreds and hundreds of songs. And we'll get right to it here. I don't want to get out too long. Let's jump right in. Chapter 2, Lesson 13, Refine Your Strumming. All right, it offers up a few tips here as we get going. The first of which is to keep your wrist and arms loose as we're going through this. Resist the urge to tighten up and lock all this up, especially as the speed picks up here. And it mentions you may want to try working with a metronome. And I would like to strongly suggest you may want to work with a metronome. Go online. This one's free. There's a bunch of free metronome apps online. And what it does, it just sets a speed. Here, I'll start mine out. Just gives you a rhythm. 95 at this point. That's beats per second. Not beats per second. That'd be really fast. Beats per minute, or maybe abbreviated BPM. And you can speed it up or slow it down. I'm going to use this on these examples here today, and I'm going to use 95 as a speed a lot. But just key, especially as you're getting going, developing your own sense of rhythm, to get rhythm from somewhere else. Let me make sure this thing is loud enough here. Because once you set your rhythm, then you've got something to play with. So it's great to have a beat there that it doesn't change, won't speed up on you. But yes, get a metronome. We're going to use a metronome for these examples here. Hey, before we jump into that notation, the book mentions here, and I also want to stress how important it is to tap your foot, the simplest thing. Because it gets rhythm going like in your whole body. It becomes a physical thing, not just a mental, I'm counting to forward kind of thing. There's a big difference between this and this. Tap your foot, bob your head, get the rhythm going through your whole body, and it'll come out of this thing. All right, let's check out some notations. All right, so when we're looking at rhythms on chords, they're often notated, and certainly in this book, with little downward stems, if you will, and kind of slashes. But let's take a look at how they're notated out. Kind of remembering back to our lessons for musical note values. But here's the whole note. So you just like before, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 beats. And you got the half note. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 beats. You got the quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 beat. And of course you got the eighth note. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it's notated very similar to how we did it in other lessons. And they'll also put strum symbols here in this book. This means down, This means up. Very simple. The key to strumming, just think of tapping your foot and your hand, when your foot's going up and down, your picking hand is just going to be your foot. And we're going to mimic what your foot would do when we're tapping as we go through these lessons here, or these examples. Speaking of, let's fire up the metronome again. We'll talk a little bit more about that and check out these examples. All right, let's take a look at the first example here. And it's just going to be a G chord. Nothing going on in the left hand other than holding down a G chord. And we're just going to strum, imagine your foot tapping, and we're just going to strum every beat on eighth note. So down and up. Every down gets a stroke and every up gets a stroke. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Let's see if I tap my foot, I shake the camera. Here, I've got the metronome set on 95 beats per minute. Turn this up a little bit, I'm sure you guys can hear it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. This is the simplest one. Foot tapping. Every time it goes down, you pick. Every time it goes up, you pick. So super simple one on that one. Let's move on here. I flip this page over. I'm just doing this out of the book with you guys. So the next example here, we're gonna downstroke. We're gonna count on the 1. And then not play anything on that and then we're going to hit the 2 and 3 and 4 and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's hard for me to not tap my foot, but then I shake the camera on my flimsy little tripod here. So an important thing to note here is you'll hit the downstroke on the 1. Now on that and, where your foot would come up and your hand comes up, you still do the motion. You just don't hit the strings because your hand is always going to be, once you kind of fire up the engine here, all that changes through these exercises is when you hit the strings. The hand stays in motion. So here we're going to go 1, silently up, and then 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4. Let's fire up the metronome, 95 beats per minute. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. All right, moving on to the next one here. Let me stop this. We'll go 1, we'll silently come up. We'll go 2 and 3. Silently come up, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. One, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2. Fire up the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. See how that one's going to go there. All right, next one is the easiest and possibly most important one. We're literally just going to play on the 2 and the 4. And if you're playing in a band, and this is a mistake I see so many mandolin players making, they're not hitting their 2s and the 4s when they're playing in the band here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Because what's happening in the band is the bass player is going to play that 1 and the 3. You're going to play that 2 and the 4. And that acts as like the drum kit, where you're the snare and the bass player is the kick drum. So again, you're just the 2 and the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hit the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Seems silly by itself, but in the context of a musical situation, this could be the most important one. Just you staying out of everybody's way, you just lay in that 2 and the 4, and bandmates will like you a lot. All right, let's look at the song here, Boil Them Cabbage Down. All right, I'll go ahead and bring it up on the screen here. Boil them cabbage down. Wouldn't it be cabbages in plural? Anyway, sorry, so let's take a look at the first beat. Rhythmically, right hand wise, every bar is going to be the same. So let's look at our pattern like we just discussed. It's going to be 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. So one measure is that. So we'll do one measure of G. We're going to go up to C, which is of course our 2 fingers just up 1 string, and do the same. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and back down to G. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and then to the D. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. So you can just hear it in your head. All right, here's what we've done. 2, 3, 4. Back to the G, to the C. Now here, that second to last measure, it's got a quicker change here. On the G chord, you'll just go 1, 2, and then we'll come down to the G, or to the D chord, sorry, for the other half of the measure. So G chord, you 1, 2, and the D. All right, here. Let's look at it one more time. I won't talk through it quite so much. 1, 2, 3, 4. To the C, G, D. To the C. Now here it comes. And we'll do it one more time with Mr. Metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. And a little variation you might want to work into. A lot of times on that the first beat there, instead of doing the whole thing, I'll just pick the root note, the bottom note, and then do the down up strum. So you don't vary it at all. Again, just each one just hitting the G string and then down and up. It's a nice way to vary that pattern. There's a lot of fun to be had, but this is, I mean, you can hear how common a pattern this is just from playing it. Even when you get about halfway through it, your mind can complete the melody because it's so well known. So work on this one a lot. This is one of the most important lessons that we've had here in the book in a while here, because this, again, applies to everybody. Rhythm is universal. No matter what kind of music you're playing, I mean, it's the backbone. You have to have the rhythm before you get off into this other stuff. All right, congratulations. You've made it through chapter 2 of the Alfred Mandolin book. Chapter 2, music reading. What I'll do here is I'll make a playlist for reading music reading, whatever I'll call it, so that if anyone's interested, you can just zero right in on that. And of course, there's another playlist just called Beginner Mandolin Book, where all these are going to be. Up next, chapter 3, fiddle tunes. A lot to be had, a lot of fun to be had coming up here, and things really get cooking along. But this lesson here is so important to develop good rhythm that, of course, I'm making it here for the Patreon channel, and I usually keep these exclusive because, you know, that's kind of the point of the thing. But this video, I'm going to put this on the Facebook, and I'll put this on the main page just because everybody needs to I mean, you have to develop good rhythm as you get going here. Just crucial. But I don't want to prattle on too long. Up next, Chapter 3, a fiddle-style tune, The Roots of Bluegrass. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Hope you made it through Chapter 2 all right. As always, shoot me any questions, and I'll see you real soon.